Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by my co-host and former USC defender, Dion Bailey. Dion, we are recording on what is not a Victory Sunday, and we have some breaking news to go over. Once again, very glad to have the former defender on the Sunday podcast so we can talk about the news of the day. Dion, first off, just welcome back to the show. Glad to have you back, and glad to have you talking about what the last 24 hours have been for USC football.
Yeah, man, glad to be back, and it's been a whirlwind and expected one, though, in the past 24 hours, so it's exciting to kind of be able to look towards the future and look to see what different changes and adjustments the program's going to make to try and, get us back on the right trajectory.
For sure. Like I mentioned, we got to talk about the news. Alex Grinch, defensive coordinator, has been relieved of his duties. Sean Nua and Brian Odom have been elevated to co-defensive coordinators. And exciting news, Taylor Mays is now an assistant coach for the last 2 games of the regular season. So we get to see him in a coaching capacity going forward. So we got to break all of that down, Dion, and talk about USC's third loss of the season, 52-42 loss at the Coliseum against Washington. We'll break that down as well. So like I said, a lot to talk about and can't wait to get into it. First off, just want to have a couple reminders. If you are enjoying the show, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're also simulcasting on the USC Athletics YouTube channel. So if you want to see us speak it as well as listen to us, you can find us there on YouTube. And if you ever want to get your voice heard, you can look at our socials, Victory Pod USC on Twitter and Instagram. We usually ask for questions or comments before we record. So that's how you can get your voice heard and get some thoughts and commentary from our lovely analysts. And before we dive into it, just want to give a special thanks to Audi. Performance is more exhilarating on a real road. Introducing the Audi Q5. Visit your SoCal Audi dealers, proud sponsors of the USC Trojans. And at Ralph's, everyone wins when it comes to saving big, because when you order online through the Ralph's app, you get the same great prices, deals, and rewards on pickup or delivery that you do in store. So no matter how you shop, you always save big at Ralph's. Ralph's, fresh for everyone. Fight on. Alrighty, Dion, like I said, it's a newsy Sunday for us. I guess first up, this was kind of unexpected. I wasn't expecting a mid-season firing from head coach Lincoln Riley, but we got the news early on Sunday. I guess first off, Dion, your initial thoughts to the news of defensive coordinator Alex Grinch being relieved of his duties.
I felt like it wasn't too surprising. It was expected. The only thing being surprising about it was that they waited so long to do it. If they were going to do it like mid-season, you would think that they would do it to where there could be a change and still have an effect on the season to try and reach your ultimate goal. But this is more so of trying to get a head start on finding the next head DC for the move into the Big Ten next year. So I kind of wish it would have happened sooner to kind of salvage this season, because we had a great opportunity, especially entering this week still, even with everything that's transpired, especially on the defensive end leading up into the Washington game. They still had every opportunity to reach their ultimate goal. But, it was a move that was necessary for the betterment of the program. So I'm glad that they took the necessary steps to try and get us heading in the right direction.
What's interesting, Dion, is that, I had expected this defense to take the next step in year 2. I felt like there were certain areas where USC actually improved in its personnel and its talent, but it just felt like the same mistakes were happening in year 2. So what did you see as far as the year 1 to year 2 differences from Grinch's defense?
I just never saw the true development of just fundamental football, like alignment, assignment, guys knowing how to really play defense as a unit, pursuing to the ball, understanding what part of the pursuit that you are. Am I the leverage? Am I the pursuit? We just never really seem to make any strides in that department, which is the foundation of any good defensive unit, especially because the offense can paint a lot of pictures for you, and it all comes back to you relying on your fundamentals and understanding the foundation of the defense that you're playing, so you can execute against no matter what the offense throws at you. And I feel like we never progressed in that direction. It just always seemed week to week like we were just starting from square one, guys making the same mistakes, not just mentally progressing, whether it's knowing down the distance, situational football, just some minor details that you can't get better if you don't get better in those areas.
What's interesting though is that I feel like sometimes people put it's from the outside, when you don't know responsibilities and you're not in the film room, the blame kind of gets shifted to one part versus the other, maybe unfairly. How much of like situational awareness and stuff like that also falls on players doing film study and stuff like that? Like, how, from your perspective, Dion, how much of this is also, you know, players being bought in as well?
Oh, I completely don't think that it was all Grinch by any means. I definitely think the players played a huge part in the turnout of the defensive performance this year. And specifically when it comes to situational football, just understanding the defense, a lot of that is based on the player, you know, taking the extra time to study in the film room, just truly ask any question that they have. So when they go to the field, there's no questions, you know, they just have all the answers, and well, at least they have all the notes to the test. So, like, you know, whatever picture they get, they have a bag of answers they can just pull out, whichever one is necessary. And I feel like we just never got to that point. Like, it's just specifically, especially in the Washington game, all their third down conversions besides the touchdown, Penix through to the tight end, it'll be third and this isn't specific down the distance, but say it's 3rd and 15 and we're dropping in zone like 17 yards when they only got to get 15 yards to get the first down. Like, it's simple things like that we just couldn't get out our own way. And it's just tough to build any momentum and really start turning the tide and getting better when you can't get out your own way. It's always a 2-on-1, and that's just a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, and Riley had talked about that earlier in the season, like that they need to play more complementary football, and it just felt like they couldn't get out of their own way, especially on Saturday. Something that, you know, Cody Kessler had identified, and I think you have too as well, Dion, was that for some reason there was a trend this season where USC's defense was kind of almost elevating someone we hadn't really highlighted coming into the game to a level that was not seen prior to playing USC. And Dylan Johnson of Washington was another example of that. I believe he only had a career high of 100 yards a game coming into last night's game, and yet he had 256 yards, 9.8 yards a carry, 4 touchdowns on the night. How does that happen, just where one player is able to just kind of elevate their game so much against a defense like we saw this season?
I think our defense just has so many holes, and we're not a good tackling defense, and a non-fundamentally sound defense that can't tackle is just it's just an equation that's going to equal explosive plays left and right, and that's really what you saw our defense give up all year. So it's tough because, you know, especially Washington, like, if I'm not mistaken, they average like 100 yards total as a team a game.
Yeah,
and
their run game was not a strength.
They don't want to run the ball. Like, they're not a running team, and they really just ran it down our throat, which everyone has been able to do. So obviously that's a weakness in our defense, and people are just exploiting that, whether that's in their nature or not. You know, people are game planning us, watching the tape and doing what they feel necessary to win the game. That's how you see Washington turn into, Stanford from 2007, you know, running the ground and pound. And what was really disappointing, though, is it wasn't like we were just missing a bunch of tackles. The holes were as wide as the Red Sea. They had a ton of yards before contact, like over 100 before contact, and that's just tough to swallow. You know, like, we got to get our pads on the ball carrier. So it's like, just things like that just can't happen. Yeah,
and you had a tweet from yesterday, Dion, where you were kind of talking about like USC defense the last 10 years. And going back to 2013, the team that you were on, it feels like, the physicality and the fundamentals of tackling has just been lacking. And it goes far beyond, this coaching staff. How do you implement that? Or if you're looking for a DC, what are the characteristics that you look for? It almost feels like, at least in Pac-12 football or maybe in just USC football, it's been lacking. How do you make sure that tide is turned this time around?
I think you got to bring somebody in that's going to demand excellence, like not ask for it, not expect it, but demand it and take nothing short of it, of whatever that excellent standard that him and his supporting staff have established for the unit. And in my personal experience in 2013, which if you look up the numbers, we're the closest defense in the past 20 years to that 08 defense that Pete and them had, which was like a top 5 defense. We were top 16 in the country. Every other defense from here on has been, from where we were at 16 to somewhere in the 40s. So biggest part of our success that year is Clancy brought a professional approach to the room. He understand we were, a lot of guys in our room had aspirations to play at the next level. So he approached the coaching the same way he would in a professional setting, really. So like, there was no, you go out there and miss 5 tackles, you're going to get an opportunity the next week. There was none of that. Like, he tell you to do something, yeah, you may mess it up once or twice in practice, but you get it coached up, you mess it up in the game, somebody else is going in there. Like, it has to be the coach. I feel like the players nowadays, they're like coddled because like with the transfer portal, you don't want to coach them too hard because they might transfer on you and throw your numbers off. And it's just it's a lot of different variations to why coaching is a lot softer than it was a decade ago when I was in college. But I mean, Clancy set us down. We had a top 16 defense that year, and we gave up 62 in one game to Arizona, which was the tarmac game, where Coach Kiff got fired on the way back from Arizona State. And that meeting, it changed the trajectory of really just the whole outlook of how the year was going to go. Like, you really saw it from another lens. Clancy literally told us, like, you're not going to get me fired. Like, when you understand that you're not just playing for yourself out there, like, it's a lot of people's lives in your hands when you're taking the field, no matter if you're 18 or if you're 30 playing at a professional level, at this level, collegiate level, and then on to the pros. It's a business and it's a performance business, and you got to really take pride and appreciation and opportunity and understand the seriousness of the moment, like especially at a school like SC where you're not going to get time to build. Like, we need instant gratification at SC. We want to see wins, we want to see production, we want to see progression instantly. Like, that leash is so short in the Cardinal and gold. So for him to really lay it all out there, like, hey, like, I'm not going to allow you to put this on film and get me fired. I don't care who you are. You can be Dion Bailey, who was all Pac-12 player years prior, defense player of the year. You could be Sua Cravens, who was a 5-star athlete, started as a true freshman. Like, he didn't care. He legit looked Sua in the face and told him, like, if he ever played like he played in that game, like, he would never suit up for our defense again. Like, he would never play for him again. And that honesty and that transparency, like, that urgency, it has to be in the room. That's just the only way that a defense can truly play with urgency. Like, you have to feel it. And I feel like whoever we get in there next, like, they can't come in coddling. We got to demand excellence. We got to make it understood that it's just not your futures on the line. It's the coach's futures on the lines too. Like, everybody's trying to progress. Everybody's trying to make it to whatever that next level is. So hopefully that's the type of guy that they target that could rally the troops and get them all understanding the urgency of needing to be good now. Like, we don't have time to build and take our time to reach that excellent, that elite level.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that you bring up your experience, Dion, and I know it's not similar, but you did deal with coaching changes in a regular season. If you're USC's team, but especially the defenders, how are you approaching this change with 2 regular season games left? You're about to go on the road up to Oregon, a number 6 ranked team. How do you approach this if you are the guys? Like, it almost feels like you have to band together, or else, that's the only way to get it done.
That is the only way to get it done. I mean, and at the end of the day, they're the guys that's taking the field. Coach Grinch is never playing a snap for the Cardinal and goal. So it's still all up to them to try and finish off on a good foot, finish the season off better than it's currently going. So they really just got to anchor down and realize that it's on them. Like, you go out there and you put up the performances that we've been putting up previously. Now that Coach Grinch is gone, now who you pointing the finger at? And that's just the realization of the situation, that all eyes are going to be on them. Like, are we going to look better? Like, if things are simplified and, hey, like, we run cover 3 really well. We run different variations of whatever cover 4 really well, so we just gonna hammer that down and learn how to play that against all different kind of formations, all different kind of personnels, and just motions into different personnels and looks and whatever, and hammer that down and get some staples in the defense to where we're not trying to really make it an X and O's competition. Like, hey, we run cover 3 really well. We don't care what y'all gonna run. This is what we gonna run, and we gonna stop you type deal. Like, I hope that's the approach we take the rest of the season. Like, we don't try and move the D line a lot, like do a lot of exotic things, or just be trying to do too much. I hope they really simplify it and let the guys just fly around. So you could truly get a gauge. Okay, was it the scheme? Were they thinking too much, or is it a personnel thing? Do we just need to upgrade in the locker room and just get better? In between the lines, and it's not an X's and O thing. So I think that's really what we're really gonna be judging these last 2 weeks, and you'll get a good picture of.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question for you. If you're Sean Nua and Brian Odom, how do you approach the game plan going forward? And you mentioned it, but what would you stress if you were in their shoes? Like, what are some of the things that USC does well that they can kind of hone in on, rather than maybe doing too much or over complicating things now that there's a change?
To be honest with you, and it's not to be, me, I don't know what they do well. I truly don't know what they do well. It's been a rough year. Hasn't been a lot of successful drives for the defense, especially lately. So I'm not sure what their best coverage is or best fronts are. Truly, I hope that they know and that they could really just come to. Especially going into this week, we're playing against a team that's a running team. They're run first, pass second, and their pass feeds off of their running game. So hopefully we just got a hard hat mentality going in this week. Like, hey, whatever we're gonna do, we're gonna stop the run. Like, hopefully we could take that approach to where we could actually stop something. It's not like the offense is just having their way however they want to with us. Like, hey, we're coming in the game, we're gonna take away the pass. So we take away the pass. Maybe they rush more than they normally rush, but they not throwing the ball on us and running the ball on us.
Yeah.
I hope we come in with the mindset we're gonna stop the run, and we turn a team that's a top rushing team in the country to have to beat us through the air. Try and turn them into what they don't want to be. So hopefully we simplify things and we could take that type of approach.
Something that I'm curious about, and I don't know how much impact you can have in 2 weeks, but someone who was very good at tackling was Trojan legend Taylor Mays. And now that he's been elevated to assistant coach, he actually can coach on the field. He was a defensive analyst prior to today's elevation. Yeah, so he wasn't able to coach on the field as in that analyst role, but now because he is now a accountable coach, he can actually, implement drills if he wants to, or is given that power and is able to coach people one-on-one or as a group. And so I'm curious, that he has. I've worked with him previously. He's very much into the technical ways of tackling and whatnot. So I don't know how quickly one can implement their own impact on players, but I'm just curious what that will look like, Dion. And it's not really a question for you, just kind of more of a comment about Taylor Mays and his tackling ability. What will that look like, if anything, in the next 2 weeks?
I think if anything, he can help affect the mentality that guys are bringing when they're headed into the collision. I mean, he definitely always had the right intention going into making the tackle. So everybody's not, 6'4", 6'5", 225, 230, and blazing fast to pick up that momentum behind them to really leave a lasting impression when he collides with somebody. So.
Yeah,
I hope people just really take from his mentality, the violent nature he had when he was coming to preparing himself for them collisions, and the efficiency in which he tackled with. So like, I know a lot of guys trying to hit up high and whatnot, and that was the way he tackled. But like I said, he was 6'4", 6'5", however you want to measure him. About 230. Like, you can tackle that way when you're that big. So I personally don't really know his technical understanding of tackling, because that's not the way he played. He was just, fast, big, and when he put his pads on you, you went down. So hopefully, along the way, he's learned like the ins and outs of the techniques of the trade, and he's able to relay it to the guys, and hopefully we could take a step forward in that department, because we will not become a better defense if we don't fix our tackling.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where it goes back to like the player or the coach thing that we talked about earlier, is like, I don't feel like this is going to be a magic wand to suddenly fix tackling now that Alex Grinch is gone. I feel like that definitely it's a larger issue that precedes Lincoln Riley. Like, how do you fix that as a culture? Does it really just come down to hiring someone who has been successful at having sure tacklers previously in their career, Dion?
Yes, I think it is. I think it's all about the standard and what's demanded of the unit. Like when I was there and Lane was let go and Coach O took over, the standard and what was demanded of our defensive unit completely changed. Like, we never tackled in practice under Kiff. Like, granted, we was 20,
Sanctions,
30 scholarship players down, but tackling is a technique. It's not it's a skill. It's not something that it's not like just riding a bike. Like, you gotta sharpen that tool consistently over and over and over again to not just be a good tackler one day, but to continue being a good tackler. You gotta continue to be put in those situations, learn from the situation so when it's game day and you're in that situation and you're confident and you're able to make the play. So what they implemented was we started tackling. It was only in scout team, but every play the runner had to be on the ground. We had to get him down. It didn't matter if he bust through, there was a bust on the defense or whatnot, and he had a long run. We had to run him down and tackle him. Like, it was that serious. And if we didn't, if guys weren't getting tackled, if we was busting too many things, he would just stop the scout period and just run us. Like, if y'all don't want to get better, at least y'all gonna be the best conditioned defense in the country. He used to love saying that. So, like, it's really just about what you demand. So, like, once we started trending that way, obviously tackling it started improving, and our defensive performance obviously started improving. So, like, in my opinion, we have to start tackling in practice some way or another in order to get guys those reps so they could understand how they're missing the tackle or how they need to put themselves in position to tackle the right way and not get a targeting call or the different nuances of tackling in today's game. So, they just need those reps. So hopefully we can implement some type of tackling period so we can get those reps in. So when we take the field on Saturdays, we're just putting out better tackling performances.
It's funny. I could see the pain in your eyes. You were back on the practice field when you're talking about being the best conditioned team defense. It seemed like it was still fresh for you, Dion.
Man, he used to run us, man. And it's the worst when it's not your fault, because obviously I was a good tackler. I had no problem tackling. So, but some guys they didn't want to, tackle like that and practice this and that. Coach O, he didn't care. He'll run you. And but like I said, it was a huge turning point in just the mindset of how our defense operated. Because it's different when it's coming from the just the defense coordinator, but when it's coming from the head man, which Coach O was in that aspect, we're opening team meetings up looking at defensive highlights of guys loafing,
wow.
Guys not doing the right thing. And it's not many teams in the country that's doing that. It's probably only Georgia, Alabama. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, they got defensive minded head coaches, and that's kind of what defense wins championships, offense sells tickets. You can outscore people, but then you get in a situation how Caleb is, where you make one little mistake, you do 100 things right, do one thing wrong, and you can't get past that. So hopefully we sharpen up on that defensive emphasis on the team.
Yeah, you lead me into the offense, and I know I could probably ask you defensive questions all night long, but we also have questions that will address that, so we'll get to that soon. But speaking of USC's offense, I felt like this was the first time in a while that we saw this offense click in a way that we're used to seeing. I felt like Caleb Williams looked like the Caleb Williams we know or had come to know as a Trojan. What did you see overall from USC's offensive efforts on Saturday?
Man, they were firing on all cylinders, to be honest. Coach Riley was dialing it up, had some razzle-dazzle plays dialed up, and the offense was executing. Everybody was doing their job, dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, and they only had one real mishap, which was Caleb fumbling the ball. But besides that, they were really, lights out from the start to the finish, and it just sucks that they couldn't have that one mishap, that really just, and I knew it too, because going into the game I knew it was going to be a high scoring game, because I never really looked into Washington, because obviously I'm not on the team. I'm not looking far ahead, just take it week by week. So
Sure.
As we start going into Washington game, I started looking into it, watching some of their games, and I realized okay, nobody's really talking about it, but their defense isn't really playing that well either. So I'm like, okay, we actually got a chance. I started a legit chance. A lot of people count us out. We was a double-digit underdog going into that game, and I'm like, I think we legit got a chance. This is gonna be a shootout. So if Caleb can be special, we could pull it off. And he was, just for that one play, man. It sucks that 42 points wasn't able to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's an unfortunate byproduct of how this defense has played this season, is that it put pressure on this offense, and especially Caleb Williams, to be absolutely perfect, which I feel like is too much to place on anyone, especially at the college level. But it was just unfortunate, like you said, that this amount of points, 42 points, could not get it done on Saturday.
Yeah, man, it's unfortunate, and the efficiency in which the offense was playing with. Every touchdown UW scored, the offense came out. They was responding. From the kickoff, really throughout the entire game, they never really looked out of whack. Never looked like they were really off their tilt. Maybe a play here or there, but it was never something that lingered on. They was always able to get back on track, and had Caleb and the offense looking how they did really all year. When you think about it, they've been, I don't know what their average per game is, but it got to be 40 plus. So it's tough, man. This is I believe it's a historically good offense for SC, and it's just it's sad that they've been paired with a historically bad defense. So it's been tough sledding from one of the true like warriors that's put on the Cardinal and Gold and Caleb Williams.
Yeah. 42 points was the most that Washington allowed all season long. Austin Jones was averaging 11.5 yards per carry. Just an unreal performance from him. Marshawn Lloyd was an unexpected scratch coming into the game. Lincoln Riley said after the game that they knew midweek that he wasn't going to be ready to play. Apparently, he suffered an injury against Cal. That's the most we know at this point. We don't know if that injury is going to affect him going forward, so we'll keep you posted on that. We will hear from Lincoln Riley on Monday after USC's closed practice. Usually we don't hear from Lincoln on Mondays besides Trojans Live, but we will hear from him after practice, so we're going to get the latest there. But I thought it was interesting too, Dion. Some new faces showed up because of Marshawn Lloyd's injury. First off, we saw Raleek Brown join the crew after several games away. He tweeted a cryptic tweet during the week and had the little shush emoji and said #fight on, and a lot of fans were excited, hoping that he would contribute, and he definitely did on Saturday, scoring USC's first touchdown of the game. And then Darwin Barlow also scored a touchdown as well. So glad to see some Trojans who haven't seen their name called in a while get some action. But I thought USC's run game was definitely unexpected, but a highlight of Saturday's game as well.
Yeah, all the guys that got their opportunities definitely stepped up. I mean, we all know Austin Jones is a great back. He's just behind, a talented back in Lloyd. Not really behind, but I mean, really, Lloyd has
1A,
been
1B.
getting, and Lloyd's been getting the lion's share of the carries, it seems like, or the lion's share of the explosive plays. So it was good to see him really get his opportunities and take advantage of them. And the same with Raleek and the other young running back, I forget his name.
Darwin Barlow.
To get opportunity and answer the bell, man. They look like they was ready for the opportunity. Like they've been chopping at the bit to get out there, and they got the opportunity and they shined in those roles that they were given. So that was exciting to see.
Obviously, you mentioned you scouted UW and their defense was not the best in the Pac-12. Is that the main reason why we saw USC's offense kind of get back on track and back into rhythm, or did you see something different on Saturday as to why they were having so much success?
I mean, that's a trick question because, I mean, what's back on track? Because, like I said, they've been averaging like 40, and that's average,
Sure.
But they legit have like almost scored 40 in every game. Like, it's not like they, just ran it up a couple games. Like, they've been pretty consistent, able to put points on the board. It hasn't looked as smoothly as it did last year, but I feel like it just looked a lot smoother on Saturday than it has the past few Saturdays. Although Washington's defense wasn't like the worst defense we played in that stretch. So yeah. I just think everything was aligning for the offense. They came, ready for the task, ready for war, and they were battling. And everybody on that side of the ball understood their assignments, and they were trying to execute them to the best of their ability. And for the most part, all the guys that took the field on that side of the ball, when given the opportunity, executed at the best of their ability, which is why they were so successful on Saturday offensively.
I'm glad you called me out on that, Dion, because I think I've gotten a little bit spoiled looking at this offense. Just because they were in such a rhythm last season that I think when they were off a little bit rhythm-wise the last couple games, you're like, what's happening to this offense? But to your point, they're the second points scoring offense in the nation, 45.5 points per game so far this season. And so I guess my question was a little too critical there.
Definitely. But I mean, you just they really set the bar high. So, you just going off of what you've seen, but you got to really take it apart. I mean, me personally, I didn't really truly grasp how big some of the pieces were that were moving on. Like, I understood Dye and what he brought to the team, not just on the field, but in the locker room, leadership, knowledge, things like that. And then a superstar like Addison. I mean, I knew he was good, but I really see how good and how confident Caleb was in him. Now that he's gone, and I'm seeing him play on Sundays, making plays, looking just like, making it look just like how college was. So it's like, you don't really, it's hard to compare to that team last year, because those two guys, they were truly two big, huge pieces, and it was more than just what they did on the field. It was like a mental thing for Caleb, with Dion in the backfield, Jordan on the outside, like mentally just knowing guys that that you that have been there, which is the biggest difference. I mean, Jordan, he was a Blitnikoff winner coming in as he died. Played in, he won Pac-12, like he was a star at Oregon. So like guys that Caleb could really, I guess they can understand like the position he's in a little bit more. Like they can walk it. They understand what it's like to walk in his shoes a little bit more than the guys he's playing with now, who are all, excluding Singler, who has success at Arizona, all trying to find their own footing, make their own way. So it's last year we definitely, me personally, I didn't really I took for granted what we saw and what we had, to be honest,
100%.
just to think it was going to be replicated this year.
100%. And I think, we've talked about it before, but the instant gratification that you mentioned when it comes to being a USC fan or the USC program, I think USC definitely overachieved last season, and yet we were kind of like, well, this is what's supposed to happen, but I don't think we fully understood how just incredible that turnaround was, because like, to be frank, like there's a lot still in this program that needs turning around and needs like a systematic rebuild, and that just can't happen in 1 or 2 seasons. And I think you're seeing that this season. So to your point, Dion, like I think a lot of people were a little, I don't know if spoiled's the word, but took it for granted what USC was able to do last year with the veteran talent they got either through the portal or had on their offensive line. So it's almost like this season was a little bit more of a return to reality as far as what a rebuild what has to happen in order to have a proper rebuild.
I agree. Last year, they definitely overachieved, and if you're not humble enough to understand that, then you're a little bit more disappointed in the way things are turning out this year as a whole. Then I mean, you really should be. I mean, he's trying to build this program. And last year they came out, and like I said, man, defensively, well, not like I said, because we were speaking before we started podcasting, but like a big difference from our defense this year and last year, like defensively, statistically, last year, they were the worst defense in USC history. I was telling you this before we started podcasting, but they had like the most turnovers in a season, like in USC history as well. And, turnovers, that's really the turning point for a defense. You can give up, 40 points a game, but you get that turnover at the right moment. You get enough of them with the offense that they were playing with, that you just need, that one extra possession, 1 or 2 extra possessions for Caleb to grasp that lead, and then you just hold on to it. But this year we didn't have that, so the defense just looked so much worse because we didn't have those really game changing plays from their side of the ball. So it just made it that much tougher to watch the negative progression really of the play.
The crazy part too is like, if you want to look glass half full about all of this, like USC has still been in it despite having defensive numbers that are trending downward statistically for the last 2 years. Like the fact that USC has still had the fight and the team culture to still rally around it and be in it in week 10, it speaks to, what can actually happen going forward once the right pieces are in place, once several cycles of recruiting have been put in place. It feels like, there are still positive signs and good indicators of future success, despite what we've seen as far as like the defensive letdown and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a positive that the guys are still fighting. Like, even though things aren't going their way, they're not having the success that they obviously aspire to have, but they're still competing. I mean, all the games, although they're high scoring games, we're in it. The last 2 losses, I mean, for the most part, it came down to the end. And I mean, our mantra is fight on, so it's good to see that the guys are fighting. There's no quit in them, but it just sucks, man, because the offense, like they're like I said, historically good. So
Yeah.
It sucks that we're not able to put it all together to where you could truly, get them the notoriety, or not notoriety, but just like allow them the success that they deserve,
Yeah.
so to speak. Like, because I mean, they've been a top offense and consistent,
Yeah.
all year. Like, and it just so happened that on the other side of the ball, we've been consistently, not playing well all year, and it's just tough.
Yeah, 100%. I agree there. One more thing before we jump into questions. I just have to highlight the trick play we saw from USC's offense against Washington. That thing was a beauty. And I was,
Man.
I don't know if you can see it on the replay, but I was right in the line of sight of Caleb throwing the ball to Taj. And I was like, please. Like, I thought he was going to overthrow Taj, but it was insane watching that. And on the replay, I don't think Zachariah even looked at Caleb when he tossed the ball back to him. It was just flawlessly executed, and I had to give props there because I just love watching good football plays like that.
Definitely, Lincoln really dialed it up there, and Zach took it a step further in understanding that, yeah, he took it one way, and then once he started running towards the sideline, he realized that he needed to go the opposite way to get the guys away from Taj. So, he puts his foot in the ground, he starts running back the other way, then he tosses the ball to Caleb. Like, nobody panicked. They didn't rush it at all. It really took them three to really make it happen, even though it was a great design by Lincoln, but they were confident in the call and they ran it to perfection, man. It was a great play, and you will see that play ran multiple times before the year is over on the college level and in the pros, guaranteed.
Because it's a copycat league.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I'm surprised Miami didn't, the Dolphins, because they have a great personnel to run that exact play. I'm surprised they didn't run it this morning when they played against the Chiefs. But I'm sure, for sure, I will bet good money, Miami specifically, you'll see them run that play.
Okay, you heard it here first. Dion said it. Maybe
heard it here first.
The time change, Germany didn't go all the way,
Yeah, definitely, because we did play the night before, and they were definitely asleep.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, before we jump into questions, Dion, just want to give a thanks to Audi. What if there was a portal to the future? Enter the fully electric Audi Q4 e-tron with advanced touchscreen infotainment system. Audi, the future awaits. And take your health to the next level with Symbiotica. Their premium, easy-to-take supplements fuel your body with key vitamins and minerals to help you reach peak performance on and off the field. Elevate your health today by going to Symbiotica.com and use code FIGHTON for 15% off site-wide. I'm actually going to start with multiple questions, Dion. A lot of people are curious, and we talked about this, but would you rather go with a simplified scheme going forward if you're USC's defensive coaching staff?
Yes, definitely. Simplify it, and we just need to come in with a few play call sheet need to be very minimal, and really just master those few calls and be able to run those against any personnel that we see, any different formations or different alignments and things like that, so guys could really just take their thinking caps off out there and just fly around, be confident in what they're doing and not thinking and playing a step slow.
And I understand that this is probably a dumb question, but why isn't that the standard then? Why not have a simplified defense if that's going to make you play better? Is that something that if you're doing that for 12 games, then you're going to get got in that sense? You're easy to scheme against?
No, not at all. Because, the best defenses, they do the same things over and over again. I'm almost certain, the good defensive teams out there, they're not running, super complex schemes where they're changing their scheme up week to week. They got all these different exotic pressures and people moving all around. People do that to try and mask their deficiencies in talent or size. So I feel like our scheme specifically, we just took it to the next level, trying to mask all the deficiencies of our personnel with X's and O's, and it just, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure if we were we were limiting the players' ability just to play faster because, you know, a lot of thinking, a lot of moving pieces, pre-snap movement, a lot of motions, different, you know, checks and whatnot. So if we come out and simplify it and really, you know, make sure it's mastered, the players have no questions when they're heading into Saturday. They get all their questions out Sunday to Friday. And I feel like they'll perform better.
Yeah, we had a question from Francine who said, do you think a change in defense will be seen immediately or will it take time?
It should almost be seen immediately if it truly is play calling. So we'll see if they come out with simplified scheme and guys are flying around, guys making tackles, guys in the right position to make plays. Then we'll understand, you know, hey, we was being a little too bit exotic with our calls, trying to mask too much where it could just be hey, if we're technically better at running whatever foundation defense we play, it doesn't matter what the offense does because, you know, we have an answer to whatever, you know, they may try to present to us. We have a counter to it. So we'll see.
If it doesn't get immediately better, would that point to signs of a longer rebuild for USC's defense?
Yes, in my opinion, it will point to it being more so on the players. And when you got to turn over a roster, that's a longer process. Obviously, it's a little sped up more so now with the transfer portal and whatnot, but we'll be in it for the long haul because, you know, like you got guys, you know, siphoning through. You know, you may have a couple guys, but you catching them all at different, you know, phases in their career. So, like, you know, what if we could have had Thule this year, you know, or Blackman back for another year, you know what I mean? Just like we're trying to, you know, get the 11 of the caliber guys that we want in the Cardinal and go on the field all at the same time. So that's going to take some time.
Kevin had a question that it seems subjective. I don't know if there's a right answer to this, but he said, what scheme should we be using and who's the best defensive coordinator for that scheme?
To be honest, I think whatever scheme fits our personnel the best. Well, that's not true because obviously you can't. Well, not obviously because some teams do it at the next level, but you can't. You're not going to be a 4-3 team 1 week and then a 3-4 team the next week. So I mean, it should be based off the personnel we have, and it's more so the scheme wise. It's more so in coverages and how we're fitting the run and different stunts and whatnot we're doing with the front. That's what I think we'll see. Differences scheme wise, whereas you're not so heavy on the man pressure type looks or the exotic pressures, playing a lot of cover 1, cover 0, and maybe we dig into the zone defenses, zone packages a lot. We're playing a lot of zone, maybe some match zone that gives you the impression of man, but it's really zone. Like you're only hugging a guy that comes into your zone, but once he leaves your zone, you're passing him to another guy type situation. So, I mean, it's to be determined depending on the personnel. Like, and that could vary from 1 year to the next. You know, 1 year you made, like last year, I feel like we had a better personnel to lean towards playing man to man because we had Blackman on one end. Yeah. You know, whereas this year we're so inexperienced at corner. And our confidence isn't there. Like we need to be much more of a zone team, you know, letting guys see things, you know, be able to get a complete view of the picture of what's happening so they can react. So we'll see the approach that the coaches take this week, and I think that'll be telling to how the talent has been receptive to what's being called, because I definitely think they're going to weigh in on what the players think, you know, what they do best moving forward.
Mm-hmm. We got many questions, Dion, asking your hot board for defensive coordinators going forward, your top picks. But I talked to you pre-recording, and both you and I are not up to date on defensive coordinator candidates. So that's something that will definitely come in the off season. But I guess characteristics you've kind of talked about, Dion. But any thoughts there on possible replacements?
I would definitely want somebody who has a proven track record. It could be at. It doesn't have to be at like a power, power school. It could just at any level. I don't care if it's D1 AA. Like you gotta have a defensive track record of demanding excellence and being able to get the most out of your players. Like I would much prefer a guy that's not coming from like a Georgia or Alabama, a guy that's coming from where he's having the cream of the crop talent, because that can mask your coaching ability. Like I feel like we get somebody that maybe from like, a mid-major, like a Boise State, not specifically someone from, but just saying that type of level that's been successful, that has a proven track record. Like a proven track record at a school that's not getting the cream of the crop talent is way more impressive. And I feel like that's a much brighter light shining on your coachability to be able to get guys who have limited physical ability and get the most out of them, and almost get them to play, past or like play better than that they should be able to play, so
yeah, the ceiling. Yeah,
I feel like that's where we need a great coach. Like we don't need somebody that's schematically, like we don't need an X's and O guy. We need like a great motivator, a great communicator, a great just leader of men, like a unifier, be able to get everybody on the same page effectively and demand, a certain standard from them and be able to uphold that demand of that standard.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. In that same vein, Darren asked, Dion, how will the change from the Pac-12 to Big Ten affect the defensive scheme and recruiting strategy? Like, do you search out for a defensive coordinator knowing what kind of level of opponent you will face in this next era of USC football, or does that not change at all?
No, because we're in the Pac-12. We're in the most explosive, the most exotic offensive conference in the country. So any conference we go from here, I'm not saying it's a step down, but it's a step down in the offensive production. Like, go look at how many points each team is averaging in the Big Ten. Like, it's a big difference. And it's not because everybody's an all-world defensive team. It's just just the talent and the ability of certain teams and certain weather aspects in certain parts of the country. They just can't produce the same explosiveness offensively that you'll see in the Pac-12 on a weekly basis. So yeah, I don't think it's we're preparing for some whirlwind that we're going in. To me, it's really just, hey, can we beef up front going into the Big Ten? Because that'll be the biggest difference. Like, there's definitely some girth on the offensive line, defensive line, on every opponent we're going to see in the Big Ten. So we want to win that battle up front. So that's the only area I dramatically see that may change or shift. But besides that, like, the same philosophies or schematics that we've been playing with in the Pac-12, we could definitely take it to the Big Ten. I feel like it still have a tremendous amount of success as long as we're getting the right players, man. It's always about the players, always about the guys in between the lines, man. You got to get the best players, the most talent that you can acquire at one time, and be able to effectively have a message, have a vision, and get them to buy into it. So it's a lot of hands in the pot that's going to determine how this all plays out for SC. But man, I hope we get the best coach available, best motivator, and I think we'll see a big turnaround on the defensive unit.
Lewis had an interesting question. He said, if USC somehow got the dream defensive coordinator replacement, would that somehow persuade Caleb Williams to stay for an extra year?
No way. I don't think there's any way he stays, and I don't think there's any reason for him to stay, even though he's making money and whatnot in college. It's just no reason. Like, he can't do anything to further his positioning at the next level in terms of the draft. So, it's always a business decision. As a fan, we would love to see him come back because, I mean, we understand that, I mean, we could just be half as good on the other side of the ball. I mean, he's a national champ. Easy, hands down. Like, but maybe that's just not in his future. And I think some of us may have to accept that because it may be hard for a lot of people to understand that to see somebody walk away from an opportunity to, you know, be crowned a champion at the collegiate level. But he can't put his future in jeopardy. So, man, I wish he stayed another year, but I don't think it's any way that happens.
Yeah. And in that sense, Nick had a question. Should Caleb Williams sit out now for the rest of the season?
No way. I don't even like when players do that for bowl games. Like, if you're playing, for one, he's only got 2 more college games for the rest of his life. Like, if he would decide to give those opportunities to go to war with his brothers for these last 2 times, he may never, ever play with any of these guys on this team ever again. Like, ever. And so, I don't think people, when they make comments like that, one, I don't think they've ever been in a collegiate locker room. Besides, I know specifically a guy that made a comment like that on Fox Sports who was an ex-player, and he was definitely just doing that for clicks because no player that's been in the shoes of a collegiate athlete would ever give up opportunity to play a college game. You know, like those are truly the best days of your football life. Like that college experience, the atmosphere, the attachment to the fan base, you know, it means something. Like when you do something for your college, like it's not going to be forgotten. Like, do you even know, you know, 2 Super Bowls ago, like who, you know, scored the winning touchdown, or like, you know, you don't. You're gonna have to think about it. But if I told you, well, who made the big play in the last Rose Bowl that SC was playing in? Yeah. You'll pick Leon McQuay had an interception to cap it against Penn State. You know, like
that's such a good point. Yeah,
drop a dime, I know. You know, because it means more. It's it's rooted in you for forever. I mean, so it's I forgot where I was going with that, but
you got into it. It was passionate. Yes,
I did.
Overall, you think Caleb Williams should finish out at least the regular season, or continue into the bowl game?
Should. Even in the bowl game, I could understand if we're going to the bowl game and we're playing some, you know, just we're in a bad situation playing a team that I can understand that it's a business decision at that point. Like, you know, should you take that risk? I'm not sure, but definitely in the season, especially with, I mean, hypothetically, still a chance that we can go to the Pac-12 championship if we win out.
Yeah. So,
like, you definitely, and hypothetically, still in the Heisman running. Like, he's done absolutely zero to take himself out of that race. So there's no telling where he is, where he's really stacking up in that race and a lot of other awards as well. So I think it would just be a crime to himself to even consider something like that. Like, man, don't rush it. Like, college is going to end. Like, don't end it sooner than it's going to come to an end on its own. So, hey, and that's coming from experience of someone that left early. I could have came back to college, and I wish I did, not because of how my NFL career panned out or anything, but like just college, man, it's a great time in life. You don't have no responsibilities. Like, you financially secure for the most part, especially them nowadays. Yeah. And you know, and you're still dreaming. It's a time in life where you're dreaming. Like, it's not time really for action to reality to meet dream, you know, like, or you have to really cross that path. Like, hey, do I, you know, go the path now reality and start, you know, making some decisions, or do I keep chasing the dream, you know, like, so you really gotta make the most out of that time and really, you know, use it for all it is. Don't give up any time. Don't give any time back, man. So I really hope and pray that he is not even considering anything like that, because he will regret that for sure.
We got a question from Will just wondering specifics about USC's defense this season. He said, can you discuss why our defense is allowing teams to run at will? Is it poor playing or bad schemes?
I think it's both. I think the players don't understand the schemes, and our players are just not fundamentally sound. We don't understand how to leverage the ball, how to pursue to the ball, how to take proper angles while we're pursuing. Like, that's how you see a lot of plays that you think they're about to get them down. You know, maybe it may be like a mini explosive play, which is only like 15 yards. It doesn't really hit the 20-yard mark, and then that what should be a 15-yard gain turns into a 40, 50-yard gain just because our angles and people just over pursuing, giving up cutback lanes, just things like that. So,
final question for tonight, Dion. JD said, if USC hires a big name DC, can they flip some recruits before signing day? And as far as just like timing of things, I think it's interesting. And Lincoln Riley has talked about this separately about the early signing period and how that's really shifted the pace of how things have changed in college football. You know, we have that coming down basically a month away. Do you think that USC could make some moves in the recruiting world based on, you know, making a quote unquote relatively quick decision on who their DC is?
Oh, definitely, because I mean, that's the only thing that they're missing. Like, we know that with Coach Riley comes a good offense. Like, we're going to have a good offense. Will it be Caleb Williams good? I mean, that's to be determined. But we know they're going to be good. They're going to score points. So if he's able to bring a proven guy, someone that has a track record, whether it be professionally, collegiately, or just, you know, guys being drafted, whatever, and just gives us that something to believe in on that side of the ball. I mean, that's all these kids are looking for. They just want to be on the hottest team, you know, because it's all about right now. Like, kids aren't signing. They're not making 3-4 year decisions. Like, they're making year-to-year decisions currently. Like, I think I want to go to this school. We'll see how I play out this year. Maybe I'll be there next year. Maybe I won't be. Like, we'll see. So it's an interesting time in that aspect, for sure.
Alrighty, Dion. Well, it was definitely a Newsier Sunday podcast, and I think both you and I expected. But any final thoughts before we wrap this one up tonight?
Hey, Trojan fans, just want to tell you guys to hang in there, man. Support the fellas through the rest of the season. We got two more cracks at it, and if we come out on top in these two final matchups, I mean, hey, the season could end up how we all wish it would. So just hang in there, keep supporting, and hopefully we show up in Eugene this weekend and shock the world.
Alrighty, Dion. Thank you so much, as always, for your wisdom and your excellent football knowledge. Always appreciate having you on the show. We'll be back on Wednesday with Cody Kessler. I'm sure we will have a lot to talk about. We're going to hear from, like I said earlier, Lincoln Riley on Monday, both Sean Nua and Brian Odom on Tuesday, and some of the USC's defensive players, and then we'll have offensive players on Wednesday. So like I said, a lot to talk about. We'll be here covering it all, so make sure you stay tuned. But that's going to wrap it up for tonight's episode. That's Dion. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all next time.